Hello, folks. Welcome to Movie Herald podcast once again. So, after a long time, we are back with an interesting guest. So, today's guest would be Mr. Neeraj Vaid. He is, what would you say? He is a multifaceted personality. You can say he's a survivor. He is a public speaker. He's a TEDx speaker. And he runs a company called a Social Symphony. And he's a branding person, he's a coach, he's a mentor. So we have a lot of things packed into one person. So let us go and invite him to the podcast and have an interesting talk. Hi Neeraj, welcome to the show.
Hi Gopal, I'm pleased to be here.
Great. So I introduced you as an unusual guest because you are not a movie person, but rather I don't know how to say you because you are an entrepreneur and you are a public speaker, you are a survivor, and you are a power lifter, and you are a branding person. So if I have missed something, please do let me know.
Yeah, I think you have covered it all. I am somebody who is like trying to conquer some of the traits, Not master of all, but master of some, I would say.
Wonderful. So there is a reason I actually wanted you to be in the podcast. Like I was asking, I'm interested in exploring guests in threads and
correct.
Chatted. What intrigued me is whenever I see any public speaker or a motivational speaker,
correct.
I think of all those characters which we see over the top in the movies.
Yeah.
So, were you inspired by those and became a public speaker or a motivational speaker, or whenever we see someone with full josh, you have spoken a lot, you might have seen a lot of crowds, but when you speak with full josh, do you feel yourself as like those, the heroes, or how do you feel? I just want to know. I just wanted to pick the brains how they work when you are giving a speech.
Yeah, I get it. So I'll give you two tangents here. Like firstly, I never thought myself like a motivational speaker or say so. So I feel like my life has been like a movie only. See, I had my neck broken 2018. I quit my job on my birthday. It had a very fancy decisions, very difficult ones, but very fancy. And then I became a powerlifter in between. Now I become like a TEDx speaker, a Josh speaker, a public speaker. I am a mentor. So all of these are like characters that I always wanted to play. These are all the characters of Neeraj. I'm a dancer as well. I'm a trained singer as well. Right?
Wow.
So, yeah. And when I was
That's wonderful.
Absolutely. And when I was giving my TED, nobody expected me to dance or to sing, right? And they randomly told me to do so. And I did it so well. And they were like, okay, you know this as well. And I was like, I've been playing so many characters since I've been born, right? So I feel life is all about acting one thing that you like at that moment. Like as a kid, I feel I started with the most comfortable thing I had was dancing. I could not speak that well. I was a very introvert kid, right? But dancing was a way to be cool kid, but also to play the character that I wanted to play at that point of time in the 10th standard. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. See, the thing is, always we watch movies, we get inspired, and if we like certain movies, we will become that lead for a considerable amount of time. We imagine ourselves to be that lead.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So, at least playing a part of it in our lives is what we imagine to be. So, how does it one interesting question I want to ask you is not many gets the chance to play the role they imagined in their lives.
True.
And what do you think is the one factor which allowed you to do that?
I think having that movie in your head sometimes help. I always it's very fancy to go on a stage and, say, hi guys, I'm here. I'm like, but I always had that one dream in my head, that act of play in my head. This is something very natural to me. So this was my first TED, right? I'm sure I'm going to give multiples, but when I came down from that stage, it was like a movie that I've played so many times since I was a child. And when I was in that moment, I absolutely enjoyed it. Like there was no fear. Before the act, there was anxiety. After the act, yeah, you did it. Again, the anxiety of happiness. But between that one thing, once that click of timer starts, I was into that character of being a public speaker because I was leading the audience of 500 people in the room. 500 people
Absolutely.
who consider me a subject matter expert, who consider ki this 15 minutes would add a lot of value to their life, right? And because I was so comfortable playing that character, I absolutely enjoyed doing it.
Wonderful, wonderful. Because I have a singer friend.
Yeah.
So she is like, whenever she wants to get into the stage, she gets all nervous, and she's like always like, I want to do I want to do well, all those things she will keep on saying. The moment she gets onto the stage and she holds the mic, she becomes another beast.
Yeah.
You cannot actually you cannot intimidate her. Once she takes control of that mic, she takes charge of the situation, and like she controls the crowd.
True.
So that is where I saw that how a performance can change a person. Because just like I'm saying this because you mentioned about what would you say, like the moment the timer starts,
Yeah,
you
the
get
act
into
starts.
the character,
Yeah, correct.
and that you might actually say that the act starts, but that is where you actually become the person you want to become,
Yeah, definitely.
rather than act.
Yeah. You totally switch.
You get into a different mode.
Yeah.
It's like a switch. The beast mode is on, and you just like
Similar
it
to
every-
our case. As soon as the recording button starts up, whenever you do a podcast, you go get into that flow. Like next 1 hour, I'm gonna kill it, right? It's the very same thing. And to be honest, Gopal, I feel this thing. An act is always an act. The essence of play might change. Like when I sing, I feel the same thing. When I am on the stage, I feel the same thing. My persona might be depicting a different quality of genre, but the experience of doing it as a person is same because I come back to the same Neeraj. I might sing, I might dance, I might do a stand-up. I've done stand-ups. I have done crazy shit. You know why? Because whenever I go on a stage, being on stage is what I love. You make me dance, you make me do stand-up, you make me do singing. I don't care. As long as I'm on stage, I enjoy. And I enjoy it for myself. I don't care if you laugh. I don't care if you judge me. As long as I'm on the stage, I have achieved it already. There's no
See,
output.
That's a very interesting question.
Yeah.
Very interesting question which came to my mind after you told, like,
Please.
Once I get to the stage. So what is the driving factor to get there? So because like if you want to perform a character, if you want to do an act, you can do it on your own. But what prompts you to go to the stage? Because for certain artists, it is always the appreciation from the audience. But you told me that it's like it doesn't mean like whether they like it or not. I just
Yeah.
want to perform at the stage.
Yeah.
So you want to do certain things, but
Yeah.
you can do it off the stage also.
Yeah.
But what is that one thing that is like makes you go to the stage and do, but it is not the crowd? So what is that factor that actually pulls you there? What is the driving factor?
I'll tell you a very interesting thing. So the switch flipped inside of me after my accident. As you said, I'm a death survivor, right? I had my neck broken. That year I was paralyzed and then I came back, right? After that, I've lived every day as of my last. So the sheer joy of being alive itself a kick for me, right? So when I go on that stage and I make that day count, I am unimaginably happy doing what Neeraj always wanted to do. So I have a sense of control. Like a lot of people out there, I see they are trapped into this notion of I want this to survive, I want that to survive. And now I have flipped that switch in my head. I don't need anything to survive. I can do what I want, and that brings me that survival that everybody thinks that they seek through job, through doing thing, keeping them caged, right? But I am not caged anymore because my mind always sees possibilities. Okay, what next? And that is more fascinating to me. So when I recovered from my injury, if I can transform from like literally being a potato to getting abs and getting ripped, else can I transform in my life? The formula remains the same, right? And that is why I am so excited and always feel like a character in a movie, because I'm developing. That's the most beautiful part about a character. A character is always in a development process.
Absolutely. So you are actually defining your arc as it progresses.
Yeah, so true. It's like a volumes. Volume 1, volume 2, volume 3.
But now I have another interesting question.
Please.
See, I am keep on saying like I have another interesting question. I have another interesting question. All of those questions are interesting to me. I'm not sure whether it will be interesting to the audience.
Yeah,
If
I'm
it
sure
is
it
not
will be.
interesting, I'm just apologizing in case if it is not interesting.
Let's be selfish.
So another, yeah, of course. So what intrigued me is like, what next is the question you have been keep on asking you, asking yourself. But why didn't you ask the question why next?
I did. You know, another deeper meaning behind my acts is because there is the why of your life, which is very unclear for a lot of people. Like, why are you alive? What is the reason you live? The bigger questions that people don't often ask themselves, right? So the day I got back up on my feet, I was wondering the same question for 6 months. Okay, what if I start walking again? What if I get a good physique? What if I get to go to a job back? What do I do or make out of it? If everything is temporary in life, just like a character, the funny thing about character is it's temporary. It's not permanent. That's a deeper meaning behind it, right? Even if you are a joker, you will make the audience laugh for a certain time. Then you realize you are not the joker anymore, right? So the deeper meaning behind my why, which now I know and which is very clear in my heart, which gives me a lot of peace and lets me sleep peacefully, which is the crux of this whole living, is I just want to be someone who can showcase people that they can have a brighter future for themselves, that they can choose the life that they want. Everything I do, every single action from every character I play, the meaning behind is that when I go on a stage, when I sing, when I do any shit, it's like I want the person in front of me to realize this. If I can do this, if Neeraj can do this, so can he do it. So can he create his own future. And when I experience that joy, that ecstasy of impacting lives, it's like a high for me. It's like I'm high on life. When I see a kid coming to me and saying, okay, when you said about your neck being broken or when you said about your journey, I thought the story ended there. But that was the beginning of my story,
Right.
So that itself makes me feel so alive. And it's very hard to explain in word. How do I express it? It's like I have literally created my passion. I've literally created the story that I wanted. I've literally created the character that I want to play.
Beautiful. So the thing is, see, we kind of love movies. We enjoy watching movies. But I always had this question like, why do we enjoy certain movies?
Yeah.
So is it because of our life experience, or what is that actually guides or defines I like this movie? So I wanted to ask you this question, like, before that experience and after that experience, have you sensed a different way to approach movies or different way of consuming movies?
Yes. See, I have always been a consumer. Now, when you start acting, you realize the different side of it. You realize how the character affects you. You realize how you keep the little bits of the character, and that then it starts piling up as your overall personality. Right? So that is one important difference that I have noticed. Like, I used to be, and if I have to go back to your question, like, why do we watch movies? I feel it's pure curiosity. Curiosity to know what happens at the end. Like, why do you watch movie? Why do we have an end and an interval, right? Why? Because we want to know the end. We want to know how the character developed, right? We want to know what happened in middle. That's why it's called interval. We want to know where there is a twist, a climax, a cliffhanger. We want to know. It's pure curiosity. Storytelling is all about making the person in front of you curious till the end, keeping them at their toes. Okay, this is something there. And how do you do that? By becoming more relatable. When you said, why do you enjoy certain movie like Interstellar? I absolutely loved it because I'm a science student, right? So when initially I saw it, like, beautiful explanation of physics, quantum entanglement, time theory, time dilation, black holes. I'm fascinated as a kid, right? But when he was questioning this thing, same in Avatar, when he was questioning, why am I alive? I was paralyzed. I'm suddenly swapped with my brother because I'm just a twin. I'm just a twin. And now I am the most powerful being on this planet because I don't know how. What did I do to become so special? Right? When you start becoming and getting relatable to those characters, then you start thinking, what can I apply in my life? Can I become a character that I always wanted? What can I take from this character? What can I learn from this movie? It's all about being relatable. Does that justify the answer to your question?
So, see, there is no justification per se because it is individuals'
way
of
that's my
approach.
perspective.
Yeah, especially in these kind of subjective questions, there are no right or wrong answers, right? Just like how they say in management, there are no right or wrong answers. You just have to take an answer and justify it. So, I just wanted to understand how you approach movies and how you consume those movies. Because for another person, it will be different.
Yeah.
For some, they don't mind having a movie which is a slice of life.
Yeah.
They don't want any twist. They don't want anything to be like happening. They just like try to see a different perspective.
Yeah. So let me give you a very interesting perspective. As a kid, like being in a hostel, I told you it's curiosity, right? But being in India, I could watch so many cultures, so many things I could learn. I am somebody who is very curious about learning things. Right. And you introduced me as not a movie buff, but I'm absolutely a movie buff. Like I was the guy who used to take hard drives from people, watch all the movies and then return them back. And I used to scan the hard drive and tell them, okay, I've done with your hard drive. Please don't bring it back. All done. Please bring some new movies. But what sheerly excited me about the movies at that point of time was the amount of knowledge I could get about different people, different perspective, different cultures. I still remember a series named as Fringe, which was mind-boggling for me. Like, having two worlds, the theory of multiverse. It was very exciting. It was like a thriller. It was crime. It was rom-com, and there were multiple different things. So I thought, okay, then there is a survivor movie like Terminator, like like you're just running behind and surviving, and time travel. Time travel is so fascinating. So I was like fascinated by these ideas, and I used to guess. Okay, let me guess what happens at the end of this episode. And if I can, I used to be so happy when I guess the same. I can understand what director is thinking, right? I can understand.
True.
So, as a kid, it was sheer curiosity to learn from the movies. And I'll be very, very honest. The reason, I have a podcast as well, right? And I am a public speaker now. So the reason I could speak very well in different topics or just talk randomly about things is because of movies. Documentaries, movies. Literally, I'm not kidding.
No, that's true. Because
and people underrate it.
See, I'm not even just saying yes, no because of this. Because I'm also one of these people who learnt a lot through movies.
Absolutely.
See, people will say that you cannot learn things from movies. It is just entertainment quotient and all those things. But the thing is, it creates, it seeds the curiosity in you. So I, explored about this one word called synecdoche. So I watched this movie called Synecdoche in New York. Mm-hmm. This is like one of my most favorite movies. If you ask me to rate my best top favorite picks, it will always be in the number one position.
Okay.
So I watched that movie. I am unable to understand what that movie says. So I create a theory. Oh, this is the story of that movie.
Okay.
Then I discussed with my friend and he gave me something perspective and I realized that whatever I said is not at all the movie.
Acha. Okay.
Then I create another version of that movie. So whenever I watch the movie and write a story, it will be different.
Oh.
So just like there is another interesting movie called Mulholland Drive.
Okay.
That is also like you cannot actually say this is the story of that movie. So every time you watch, you will get a different perspective.
Oh.
So these are all not like to show that I'm intellectually superior and all those things, but it was a kind of an exercise to our minds to think differently without, forcing us to think differently, because if we force to do some certain things forcefully, it won't work.
Yeah, true.
And another important thing which I feel is, why is it that it is easy for us to understand in a movie rather than the same is given as a textbook or anything. So I feel like it is because the movie gives you a story, it gives you a context, so you can understand and remember things for a long period of time when it is explained in a context.
Yeah. I think you can go in details about execution. Let me give you a few examples. Let's start with Drishyam. So Drishyam itself means perspective, right?
Yes.
And Drishyam itself, when you name the movie like that, it's upon how much, just by changing the perspective of looking at things, how much can a normal common man manipulate the whole narrative of for saving his family, right? And every time you watch that movie, you will discover a minute detail. Okay, this was also done. Okay, this was also done, right? And you start discovering that. Another movie I remember is, I think it was a Korean movie, where it were kids. It's based on real life, and they were defending between the war of South Korea and North Korea. It's called something 72 into the war. Yeah, that's the movie. It's a very fantastic movie. And when you watch that movie, you realize it was just a training camp of kids. They were told the war has been on. You just have to delay the forces for 48 hours. They had no resources. It's just a training camp. Now, how do they manage it? It's very exciting. And how dedicated they are to save their countries. When you go into that nitty-gritties, that they had an entire army coming there, and they still managed to do it for 72 hours or exceed 48 hours. How did they do that? By beautifully storytelling that things, these insights can actually help you in real life.
True.
Very
true. You cry on watching a good melodrama.
Yeah.
And you feel motivated on the hero winning.
Unbroken. Yeah, you do.
So it all's the thing is if we can relate ourselves to the people in that story, then we can actually see them suffer, praise them or enjoy their success, everything. But if we can't relate ourselves to any of those people in those stories, then that is where whatever we say is irrelevant.
True. It's all about relatability. That's true. Somebody might love thriller more. Somebody girls love a lot of Korean drama. I'm not being judgy, but yeah, nowadays if you go to Gen Z generation, they will especially the girl side would watch a lot of Korean guys in series, and they would love that rom-com feel of the Korean thing. I don't enjoy that genre, and it's my personal choice, right? But why does that happen? How do you create your personal choice? Is through the relatability factor.
Absolutely.
Again, for somebody, Interstellar might be boring.
True. See, another thing is Interstellar. If you read the original script of the Interstellar and the version that has been made as a movie, you see that the original is much more of a complicated scientific movie. But the movie version which we saw worked because it is not the complicated sci-fi movie. It is the relationship. It's a drama between the father and the daughter.
Correct.
So without that drama, I don't think it would have worked that well.
Emotions.
Emotions, because although you can say a lot of complicated stuff and all those things, you can bring it in a survival drama, or you can bring it in you can fit in a lot of genre.
True.
But it is an emotional story of a promise of a father.
True.
So you mentioned about what happens. I'm curious about what happens. So the same 3-act structure, that they will bring up the problem, then there will be a distraction.
Correct.
Then they go to a place.
Correct.
They will fight. Then he has to overcome this particular problem and has to achieve, or rather in this case he has to meet back his daughter.
Correct.
So whether he will meet or not, or how the interaction is going to be. So that is what intrigues us rather than the sci-fi gimmickry.
Yeah, I think even we take an example of Interstellar, it's you see the character development of the father, right? He's the one in the future sending message to himself and the daughter.
Yes.
He realized it, okay, this was me only. So through the black hole part, that is where his life comes to a full circle. Right? So it was a character development at the end.
Yes, and we want to see their story.
Yeah.
It is See, it is not only about, finding the complications, filling out what it is, like figuring out. It is not just solving the jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
But also, it is all about understanding those people. See, at the end of the day, human is a social animal.
True.
So they just want to, learn about the stories. They are like, they want to relate themselves. They want to feel something. So if you are not getting that emotional connect, whatever that emotion may be, it might be like frightening is also an emotion.
Correct.
You can get frightened.
Correct.
You can get fooled, which is a thriller or anything.
Correct.
You can laugh. You can like enjoy the laughter.
True.
So it is, at the end of the day, it is those storytelling which evokes some kind of an emotion in your life. And if the emotions sit well, the logic takes a backseat.
I'll summarize this in one line. Sometimes you just want to see what you can't have.
Absolutely.
That's what movie is. It's not reality, but it's the reality that you want. It's a deep line. If you can understand it, that's what I'm trying to tell.
See, the beauty of what you said is like every movie is a fantasy.
Exactly. A fantasy that you want to live, not just a fantasy in your head.
Yeah. It's not the literal fantasy, but the actual fantasy which you want to live, but you cannot achieve.
Yeah, and the closer you can get to that thing, the more that's the bullseye that a director hits. That's a relatability quotient. Like the more closer you bring it to somebody's fantasy in their head, the movie that they are playing in their head, you make a blockbuster. That's how it is.
Absolutely.
I think everybody would want to be Pushpa, isn't it? Like it's on high right now.
Exactly. See, the thing is, talking about Pushpa is a wonderful case study.
Yeah.
See, it is a proper Telugu movie. They didn't even try to make it a pan-India movie, bringing in pan-India sauce, everything, nothing. It is a proper Telugu movie. The story is happening in a place in Andhra. Correct. But couple of days back, they released the trailer in Patna. The number of views is very much high in terms of Hindi, more than the Telugu itself. Which shows that it is not whether you are from this industry, that industry.
Correct.
If the emotions are right,
correct,
it hits the spot because they can relate to that kind of a person. For example, if an NRI hero is coming, they don't see that kind of person in their life.
Yeah, true.
And they cannot understand the emotions of him.
Correct.
But rather, when you take character like Pushpa or character like Rocky Boy,
correct,
this kind of person is among you. But they cannot rise like Rocky Boy or rise like Pushpa. But you want them to be.
Yeah. So true. It's like monetizing yourself on somebody's pain. So every underdog wants a movie showcasing the rise of an underdog. You take KGF, you take anybody, he doesn't know where the mother is. He's very, thrashed by people, judged by entire world, does not have any support, but he rises to the top. That's the contrast that they want to build in their own life. Nobody likes a prince slaying for the princess. They want somebody from the village to win the princess, right? Like, why? Because the population of villagers is more. Prince is just one, right? In India or in the world, underdogs are more than the winners. Always.
Absolutely. And it is not only the population or anything else. It relates to us because we are not the prince. And we want our stories to be.
Yeah. We want to look like them. We want to act like them.
Absolutely. And that is the hope which is treading, and that is the thin line which is actually pushing us to, live that world. And only based on that hope, we are actually working.
Yeah.
So every, middle class or every poor, they want to go to the next level, or at least the next generation has to have a comfortable life.
Yeah.
So once they get into a comfortable life, they want to have a luxurious life. They want to grow further.
Yeah.
And all of them living with the hope that they can achieve it someday.
Correct.
I think any movie which actually brings that hope
Yeah.
is something good. Because
think-
yeah,
I think
yeah,
I would
you
love to. I think I would love to give this a word: dream. Every movie gives you a dream. I have this handle like on social media. I'm known as Dream with Neeraj, and I
yeah,
think movies taught me to dream as a kid. They are that perspective of the world that you might not have in the present tense, but you want to have in the future, right? Like looking at
true.
Enter the Dragon from Bruce Lee, or some monk, or somebody who's doing stuff. Even you take any movie, right? I am sure people get a lot of inspiration, I would say, out of it to dream bigger in their life. Yeah, like everybody, some of the crazy people are crazy enough to believe, okay, I can be Bruce Lee, I can be someone like this, I can be Pushpa, or any character that is on screen, or at least I can be 10% of it. So I think movie puts the seed of a dream in people's heart, and
True.
that is very important, I think so.
Yeah, the example you took of Bruce Lee. See, at least in the 90s or like the late 80s or 90s, there was like a surge of movies was releasing in India. I think in 95 it was Jackie Jan's. Sorry. In 95 it
2000s.
was Armor of God.
Ah.
So I'm not so sure whether which exactly is that. Like there were stream of Jackie Chan movies were releasing in India. After some time, it got parallel release in India. So that actually created a surge in people getting into martial arts.
Yeah.
So if you see this is I don't know
So
how
beautiful.
much it will be
So beautiful. No, that
culturally
connects.
relevant. In the tier 2 and tier 3 cities, there will be a martial arts teacher who will be seeing like they will have their dojo painted with Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee's
Yeah. Correct.
pictures, and they will be seen as the Bruce Lee of that particular place. Most of the gyms are like named Bruce Lee gym,
Yeah.
Jackie Chan's gym, and they will have all those equipments.
Yeah.
They will those two actors were integral part in terms of reviving the martial arts in the tier 2 and tier 3 cities. I'm not so sure how much it happened in the tier 1 cities, but in tier 2 and tier 3 cities it happened a lot.
Global phenomena. Global phenomena.
So that was wonderful. See, the thing is, Jackie Chan acting in a Chinese movie is impacting a place where none of the people even understood
Chinese.
half of the English. That is a dubbed version of the Chinese movie is impacting a tons and tons of people who don't understand the language and creating a new crop of people.
True.
So that is what I think a power of movies.
I think you have beautifully said it. Like, see, my content is in the niche of people doing self-help or personal development or transforming their life, because transforming as a word relates very highly to me. Because that is how my life has been, and I feel the whole life is about metamorphosis. If you see the character start to end, he's a very different person. At the start of the movie, he might be getting agitated. At the end of the movie, he doesn't care.
True.
Right? And you have beautifully put it, like, martial arts, the importance of discipline. A lot of quality subconsciously has been fed to the mind because of the movie. Right? They also see Jackie Chan cleaning the floors. They also see Jackie Chan doing shit, and they realize, oh, this is also required. Oh, this is also required. And I would love to add one tangent here is movies actually give you a roadmap in real life. That's what I'm trying to do for the people in real life as well. Through my Dream with Neeraj podcast, or through any content that I create, or speaking gigs I do, right? It's to help people get a roadmap of how you do it by inviting people who are actually doing it. So, for example, an actor can tell you how to become an actor. An Air Force pilot can tell you how to become an Air Force pilot and what are the problems you face while doing it, right? You might need to apply for the license. Similarly, movies give you a gateway to roadmap the things that you want to do in life. And that is where you find that relatability wala tangent. If you want to become a martial artist, you might like a certain actor more. If you want to become a dancer, you like Hrithik Roshan more. If you want to do some other shit, you like that person more. Why? Because you want to do that. That's your dream. isn't it?
See, I can say the opposite too, because you like Hrithik Roshan a lot, you want to become a dancer. You like Bruce Lee a lot, you want to become a martial artist. So that actually influences, because see, this is an interesting tangent which I wanted to support my argument. To support my argument, I want to give this example. So, if you are a person who started watching martial arts, if you are a person who started watching Bruce Lee first and get into martial arts, the kind of approach will be much different than you get into martial arts by watching Jackie Chan. So that's a very interesting thing, because if you are influenced by Bruce Lee a lot, you will have a different kind of a solid approach towards martial arts.
Okay.
Because his moves will be like very uptight.
Yeah.
Like he will.
The philosophy is
make
different.
His philosophy is different. But if you watch Jackie Chan and go into martial arts, your approach will be like it's more of a showmanship in a funny way. See, I'm not saying it's in a, as a joker or a clown.
Yeah.
But rather, you bring in those human elements to that fight and try to implement it. But rather, if you go into the perspective of a Bruce Lee thing, you want to achieve perfection to the core.
So I'll give you a very interesting take here. So when you go to a buffet, right, you go to the place that you like more in terms of eating. Okay, I like this section, I like that section. So when you choose a movie, you are actively making a choice. Actor is not coming to your home, right? I am inclined towards a genre, right? Whether it's rom-com or serious or thriller or horror. That's already my subconscious inclination that I like horror movies. That's why I might like a certain character. And when I like a certain character, out of those certain characters, who am I the most close to? And when I start impersonating myself to that character, okay, Hrithik Roshan is the closest thing that I can feel is like me. And then, so I think it's still a user choice, not an actor choice. That's my take. Because you are the one. Even if I show you 10 visuals, even if I show you 10 visuals on TV screens, you're still gonna choose 1, 2, and 3, right? That's still your choice. I can give you 10 dancers. Tiger Shroff is a great dancer, but still people would like Hrithik Roshan. Why? Because that is the most relatable person to me. Right? So I think it's human psychology.
Yes, that's a very interesting take on that.
Yeah.
So we tend to believe that they are the influences, but we are premeditated in that in our own choice.
Yes.
That we make them our choice and then blame it on them.
Yeah, I teach this concept, and when I mentor and stuff like that, there's a concept of inner world and outer world. There is nothing as an outer world. Everything is your inner world. You experience this whole thing. I'm touching the laptop. How? I'm not feeling the metal on the laptop. I'm feeling the skin that I have. The way I perceive this reality is through me. I am the filter. When I am the filter, I am deciding the rules for it. You get it? Everything that I experience comes from my own conscious bias. It's called consciousness bias. When you like a character in a movie, why? Because you consciously want to like that character. Sometimes you like a villain. It's again a conscious bias. Like, I like this villain. You might disagree with me, but I like this villain. And you might have seen movies where villains get more popularity than heroes. Why? Consciousness bias. I am experiencing you through me. It's still governed by me.
So so can we say that the movies are just mirrors reflecting you?
Absolutely. Because that's what you want to see. Yeah, it is.
Right. So it is not the creators or the storyteller who are influencing you, but rather you are just waiting for the right kind of
mirror for yourself.
Characters to
Absolutely.
That's wonderful. That's a very interesting take on that.
I added some depth of psychology there.
No, that is a very brilliant move.
Yeah.
I never thought it this way.
Yeah. There is a lot of deeper shit that I talk about. You can check me out.
Yeah. This is interesting because, see, we used to think, or we used to say a lot movies are bad influences.
Yeah.
But this perspective is nothing is bad influence.
Yes.
You are already influenced. You have made up your mind.
Exactly.
You are just waiting for the right opportunity for that to pick.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting perspective.
Yep.
Wow. So now my next question.
Yep.
See, it is going like an interview, but it's okay.
I'm loving it. I'm loving it, bro. I'm loving it.
Okay. So, you mentioned about, let's go back to the origin.
Yeah, let's go back.
So, you told me about getting into the act.
Yeah.
So, when you tell getting into the act, are we pretending to be ourselves or are we pretending to be someone else?
Very interesting. I think you still pretend to be yourself. You still pretend to be yourself. I think of this like a switch of mask. Right? I feel everybody has like 2-3 different masks that they play. You just switch between those. I don't think you play anything that is not you. You are incapable of doing that as a human. Our fish cannot fly. Can it? No. It does. It can't. Right? So when I talk about getting into the act, I talk about just switching into the act rather than creating something new. Right? I will tell you this. I was always naturally loving to be on stage in terms of, being public speaker. It never scared me as I was always excited. Okay, I'm getting attention in the stage. Yeah, it's a little anxiety driven thing in the start. But I start realizing this. Okay, this character is already there in me. Let's take example of Ranveer Singh.
Yeah.
Right? He's a very high energy person. Do you think he can be very high energy person 24/7 if he is not that naturally? It can't.
No, you can't.
Yeah,
That's his nature.
Yeah, you take example of Allu Arjun, the way he is, or you take example of Diljit Dosanjh. So many, and you require one quality to them. Diljit, kind guy, humble guy. Allu Arjun, again, very down to earth, respectfully treating a lot of people. How do you do that? How do you do that? Why do you have this one word that everybody will have in their head when they see that person? Because it's part of their personality, right? And I feel every character is actually a portion of the person who's playing it. Now that is why the director chooses that specific person. Okay, this guy is apt to play Drishyam. Ajay Devgan has played Drishyam and Mohanlal has played Drishyam. Don't you think like if somebody else would have played for Akshay Kumar in Bhul Bhulaiya, that character itself could play the investigative character that the movie required because that person is like that. And that is why director cast. It's called casting. Why? Because you have some innate qualities that reflect that. For Terminator, you take an example of Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? He was a bodybuilder with that buff, and you could imagine him like a Terminator, right? You could not imagine Bruce Lee like a Terminator. Like,
True. You want the robotic thing. Like,
yeah.
If you say Arnold is a robot, we would definitely agree, but it might not case with Bruce Lee or Jackie.
Yeah. And I just wanted to highlight casting here because I think it's a very conscious choice that we forget. We choose between humans. Why? Because one human would be able to play it better or naturally look like that. I think Allu Arjun perfectly suits in that Pushpa thing with his beard. Obviously, there is cosmetic changes to stuff. Sanjay Dutt can play a villain as well as a comedian. It suits his character, suits his body, the way he does it. I feel
the thing is, see, apart from suits it is the attitude and the performance they bring which actually makes us believe that they are suitable for the character.
I'll give you another take. So I am a sarcastic person, right? So stand-up happened to me. I knew I would be good at stand-up. So I randomly wrote a script in the metro if subconscious mind was a person.
Okay.
Right? That was the topic. And I literally wrote it in 1 hour. I went there. It was a 5-minute act and everybody loved it. And I knew that people will love it as well. Because I knew I'm a sarcastic person and I am very okay with being judged at that point of time. So I started with this line itself that this is the first stand-up of my life, so I'm completely okay even if you don't like it. Right? And with a pause, obviously with the comedy timing. And when we started doing the act, I was just experimenting with it. And I knew this is one element that I already have. Let's give it a chance. If I did not knew that, I like being on stage, I am sarcastic, so why not combine this character and try an open mic? Now I gave myself a stimulus and that's called character development. I've given 2-3 open mics now. So I'm much more comfortable. I can play this character. So the switch becomes easier. So let's talk about this thing. So if a person has become villain for the first time, second time, third time, fourth time, the switch will start becoming easier and easier and easier and easier because that's a feedback loop. Once you play a romantic character, again the switching will become easier. And take example of Shah Rukh Khan.
Yeah.
Kiran. So everybody, the way he plays is his element, right? For him, the switch becomes easier because I can play a romantic character very well. Same for, I would say, Amir Khan, when he goes into that very typical character of Dangal, or like he does that crazy stuff. He'll lose weight. People know, right?
That's
I think
space.
Yeah, I think switching becomes easier, but you remain who you are, and you sort of start adding depth to yourself the more you progress in that journey. It's called character development. I would go back to the same theory. Character development.
Wonderful. So basically, the whole podcast, whatever we spoke till now, is nothing but what Shakespeare has told. The world is a stage, and we are all just artists.
Absolutely.
We are just writing our own script.
Yeah, let's take this a notion like, what if your life has no meaning? What now? It doesn't have a meaning. It's only an act of play. What if that is the notion? Right? There is no ending. There is no starting. You're just in this moment and you play. That's it. It's a very hard notion to think, but that's how you play. An act is just in the present. It's not in past. It's not in future. All we have is this one moment, right? We are doing an act of podcast here. At one particular point of time in your life, you can just do one act. Aren't we playing all the time?
That's wonderful.
I go pretty deep.
See, the thing is, I told you about a movie called Synecdoche in New York.
Okay.
So that is actually the core of the movie.
Oh.
The entire world is a stage, and it's a play, and you are just playing your part. But what is the twist, or what is something is like? What if somebody plays your character and you play some other role? So that is an intriguing question. They played it so well, and see, I cannot explain you what the story of the movie or like how it is like, but it's a very beautiful movie.
I get the vibe, yeah.
Which makes us think in detail about what is our role and the question of why are we doing what we are doing.
Yeah. So true. So true. Introspection.
And the question of like, when you go through a near-death experience, you think life in a different way.
Yeah.
Or rather, if you see certain movies, if you like able to relate to yourself with a certain movie, it will bring a little bit of change in you. Or rather,
Absolutely.
it will bring certain things which is dormant in your mind. It wakes certain dormant things in your mind.
Can I give you a story here? Like, if you allow me?
Please.
So when you said this thing, I got into a flashback of my life. So when I had my neck broken, I saw this Spanish movie of a boxer who had a similar injury, and he went to the ring. So he was driving his Ferrari or something, and he was a world champion in featherweight category, and he crashed his car very badly. He had, just like me, a Philadelphia collar and some other bones broken, and he had to get into a boxing ring again. So if anybody knows about boxing, they already require a lot of strength in your neck because your neck absorbs the shocks of the punch, right? So they train their neck. Like normally bodybuilders don't train their neck, but boxers do. Like you take Muhammad Ali or anybody out there, right? So when I saw, and I was still recovering at that phase, right? I was able to sit little, and I started watching these movies that could like inspire me to get into physically better shape, right? How do I do this? I had no idea. I thought this is the only guy who understands my pain because his neck was also broken. So I started stalking his interviews. How did he recover? The real person. And then I knew, okay, he did it in 1 year and he was in the boxing ring again. Exact same thing. And even a little worse than me. So definitely I can do. And it became my life story. His movie became my life story. Unconsciously.
Yes.
Right?
Again, we just need someone to pat on our shoulders or like say that this exists.
Yeah.
It's been there.
Yeah.
So yeah, stories does matter.
DDLJ has inspired a lot of what you can say ashiks for marriages. Okay.
Yeah. Of course.
It's still in theaters to inspire people to do more.
Absolutely. But then, that is what K dramas are doing today.
Yeah, so true.
What DDLJ did to those generation, because at that time it was a lot of a social drama which was like peaking, and DDLJ was a fresh breeze of a kind of a different lifestyle, different story,
Yeah.
and that made Switzerland, the NRIs as the biggest crush, or like people started to
Yeah. Agreed.
consume those kind of NRI stories. But then again, we lost our roots. Those fascinating things took away the rooted stories, and now it is time for the rooted stories to take back the theaters by storm. Because at some point, they were just making movies for the multiplexes, not for the single screens, and
Correct.
the majority of the population who are single screens.
Correct.
So that is why an unknown face from Kannada industry was able to rock the entire nation because it was a relatable, rooted story. So it's all about like character development and understanding your part and exploring what you want to do.
I think the whole life is about character development, isn't it? You don't take the same action when you're 10-year-old, and you don't take the same action when you're 30-year-old. When you're given the same situation, right? You will act
True.
differently. Why? Because you've developed your character.
Absolutely. Great. It was a wonderful talk. I think we kind of rounded up to a conclusion. So let us not prolong it and finish it right at when it is on a high.
Yeah,
So
I think I wanted to add something into it. I think
Please do.
there was one thing. Let me just recall it. There was one thing about this whole movie. Yeah, I wanted to go back to Avatar. You know, let me break it down a little. This will be interesting for a lot of people. So,
Sure.
very less people think of this perspective. Is every notion, every part of reality that you think is a reality might be a gifted perspective from this world. So, what if the frame that you have of filtering things is not a real one but a fake one? So, when I watched Avatar, right, when he introspects everything, I think movie becomes a huge gateway in terms of you redefining your perspective, like every time and again, and rediscovering yourself. In 90s or in 2000s or in 2050, any place, and you realize, okay, this is also the part of the world I never thought of. So when I started watching these biographies, right, and I went more into human psychology, I understood, okay, there is so much that I wasn't aware of, and all I could think of was this limited box, because that is the only thing that was taught to me. That was the
Right.
data I had available, and that is why my conclusions were very limited. So I think movie, for me personally, I think has been very, very big part of my own real life character development. Now
Interesting.
I remember this movie known as Memento, again by Christopher Nolan and Jonathan Nolan. So he's like running, and he remembers that he's forgotten his memory in every 15 minutes. That is where the Gajani is derived from. So he's just running in this act, and this very beautiful walk of life as well. He's just running in this act, right? And suddenly he forgets why he's running. He doesn't know why he's running, and then he sorts of sees, okay, somebody's running behind him with an axe, and that's why he's running. So his perspective is now suddenly shifted to just this. I don't know about what has happened so far, but all I know is this. Isn't this how the life is?
True.
Shifting of perspectives.
Absolutely.
So I
This
just
is
wanted
like-
to. Yeah. Please.
No, this is a very interesting perspective because like we'll be running with certain thing in mind.
Yeah.
But once the perspective changes, it all collapses.
Yeah, it's like seeing yourself from third person perspective. The thing that you told about your favorite movie, I feel I've gone through it in this 1.5 year. Like now I see Neeraj through a third person perspective, because this is the character that I sort of dreamt of playing, but never thought it would be a reality. And now every time I introspect, I go into a third person perspective. What if my storyline, if I did not quit my job, would go in the same tangent? And this was a storyline that I always dreamt of, right? So now I see
Correct.
these two notions of time, right? So it's like a third person gap for me.
True. Very true. Very true.
So just a
And
fascinating angle.
no, once you isolate yourself from the frame of reference and
Yeah,
see from a third person point of view, things look so much different
yeah,
because you keep away the emotions
yeah,
and then play with the emotions.
yeah. So true, so true. I tell this to people like, and this is the illusion of life, people run as if there is no finish line, but there is a finish line for everyone, right? The one thing that is inevitable as soon as you're born is death. But people try to run from it and live in an illusion. And that illusion itself is life, which is the movie we all play.
Very true. So we started off like how a public speaker sees movies to
Yeah.
how the movies are defining our characteristics in life.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for giving me this wonderful perspective, and it was a very wonderful episode, and I enjoyed talking because usually I will talk a lot and I will be like giving very fast speeches, but today I was able to take a backseat and listen to you a lot, and I was the more I was speaking, I was like contemplating and
Ha.
processing those information. So it was a very wonderful experience for me. Thank you so much for being the guest in my episode.
Thank you so much. I hope in a good way.
Yeah, it was wonderful. I would, definitely will be talking a lot. We would like to have a couple more episodes where we can
Definitely.
delve deeper
Definitely.
into a lot more aspects.
Definitely.
Because I feel it is just like a teaser where we discuss a lot of things
Absolutely. Absolutely.
and we tease about a lot of things in this episode, and hopefully we can delve deeper into each of these topics in some other episode.
I would just love to give one ending line for your viewers, and I hope this sort of inspires them to create a movie for themselves. If you can't play the character that you want, at least try to build one. That's where I will leave the podcast at.
Beautiful. And before signing off, I just want you to share 5 interesting movies which you love the most and why you love those movies most.
I think I've already been saying Interstellar. So first one, let's go with Interstellar. Obviously, because I think it's one of the movies that makes you question the reality itself.
Okay.
So that's why Interstellar. Another second one is Avatar. Definitely, I go back to that movie every 3 to 4 years just to introspect on my own journey. Because what happens beautifully is every time I watch that movie, I have grown, and I come with a very new perspective to that movie again, and I've forgotten the storyline after 5 years. So every time I revisit a movie, I get a different learning from it. It's like reading a book again after a couple of years. So that's why Avatar. I think again Dark Knight, because of Heath Ledger. It is the legendary movie for me because of the human psychology depicted in that movie itself and the way he has acted from start till the end. Fourth and fifth, I think I'm such a movie buff. Can I add a series here in the fourth
Absolutely.
place?
Please.
I would add Fringe. It's a sci-fi series from America. It's I think from 2000s. I think you should. It's a very interesting take on life. It questions a lot of things. It's a thriller. It's a rom-com. I loved it. So I think, and it also shows evolution of human, like how we advance. AI was discussed like 15 years back in that movie, and they have beautifully described AI as well. So that would be fourth. Um, in terms of fifth, I would put a category of things that has helped me develop as a character. It's anime, I would say, from Japanese people. I think the beautifully describe their culture, the way they tell a story, just through animation is humongous. The way they sort of develop the character. And if I have to talk about anime recommendation, I know everybody knows One Piece, Naruto. I would say watch Inuyasha. It's a very underrated anime. Highly advise. Go watch its OST, opening soundtrack. You will fall in love with with it. So I think I would summarize it at that 5 things.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being patient with me and
Alright.
having this wonderful conversation.
It was fun.
Thanks again. See you guys in another episode and in an interesting topic with an interesting guest.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.